So Steve Ferrugia of Faster and Worse, if you are subscribed here, you should definitely be subscribed to him. He's looking for a job. Just going back and forth about it on BlueSky. It reminded me of my escapades trying to get a job, which admittedly I haven't done in a while, but I would imagine it's worse even now than it was then. And I think, let's just bracket the whole, you know, front door approach where you're, just chucking a resume into a bucket and hoping something happens, which I think is the most ineffective way to get a job. I've never managed it. No, I've had one job, I think, where I, submitted a resume in the front door. But I mean, my approach has always been find a person who would be your prospective boss. Look them up, maybe see if they've made conference talks or written papers or, invented something that they're known for or whatever, and you contact them because usually they leave their contact information on the thing, whatever artifact, the talk or the paper or whatever. You contact them and say like, hey, like what's it going to take to work with you, which I think is, I think to me that's been the way that I've gotten pretty much every job I've ever had. And you may get put through the HR ringer anyway, but you'll be put through the HR ringer, with your prospective boss's imprint on it. And it obviously helps if you've differentiated yourself somehow, so you're not just some random person who, it's like what they say, Lord Nikon says in Hackers, done anything, make sure you've done something, obviously. But it made me think though, like just in my experience of just like how sort of misguided and sort of generally confused on the HR side has been for just technical hires in general. And like technical hire, I mean like somebody who just works on a product or infrastructure, like they actually have to know how to do things. So like just what I find is when you put the sort of like when you see like the job descriptions and it's like must know these skills, must have this experience, et cetera, et cetera. And like a lot of the times, I mean, especially computer stuff, it's always like, you must know like whatever, like this programming language or this tool chain, this database, like this particular infrastructure or whatever. And I guess my point with that is that there's some things that you should know going in, and then there's other things you can learn on the job. It's like if a candidate knew 3 or 4 programming languages, let's say, and our programming language at our company, whatever one we use, which I mean, if you're just using one, that's going to be, I mean, I would ask questions as to how you've managed to do that, but let's say like the one you mainly use, like, their 3 or 4 programming languages, it's not on that list. So what? Like if the person knows 3 or 4 programming languages, like picking up a 4th or 5th one is not going to be anywhere near the amount of effort relative to the amount of like just random weird stuff, idiosyncratic things about your company that they're going to have to learn. So like whatever, if like their freaking programming language, they're the one programming language that they don't know is the one that you use. But it's like, if they know Postgres and you use MySQL for some freaking god awful reason, it's like, oh shucks, like you're gonna have to learn some minor differences in the fact that MySQL is broken in all sorts of ways that Postgres isn't. It's like a minor thing. Like these things are just like eminently learnable. And so what ends up happening though is like a lot of job descriptions like don't consummate because, you've put down a list of these are all the things that you have to know, and either candidates self-select out of it, or, you're basically like, or you get people who have no compunction about lying. They're lying for the keyword thing. And so just even that in like tech hiring is it's just dumb. And so I don't know. I mean, like, you would really want to tailor your HR process to filter out like psychopaths, which, are necessarily like 1% of the population. But it's like the toxic hires are going to be the people who are going to be much more damaging than, somebody who doesn't know how to do like use freaking Schmorplorp 2.7 or whatever the hell. Like, it's not going to be, you don't know how to use this particular CI tool or this particular, whatever. That is shit that you can learn on the job. And so, it matters, I think, that obviously that you don't want to have somebody misrepresenting what they know, but at the same time, misrepresenting what you know is also a signal that the person is a liar. But if you're forcing them to misrepresent what they know just so that they can get an audience with you, that's just a bunch of messed up incentives, I think. So going and finding the person who's gonna be your boss, I think, is number one strategy. But on the company side, like, maybe try to rank, I guess, when you're trying to do a job posting, try to rank the kinds of things that people can learn on the job and the kinds of proxies for that. And, maybe think, like, try to prioritize, like, trying to smoke out whether the candidate is a psychopath, versus whether they have 10 years of experience with some freaking JavaScript framework that hasn't even been around for 2. Anyway, gonna finish my coffee.